it's Sue. I'm so happy to have you here. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. If you're a new viewer, if this is one of the first videos you've watched, I really appreciate you stopping by. And if you're so inclined, please leave a like, leave a comment, even subscribe if you feel up to it, because that will really help me out and help me grow my channel. So we'll get right on with it. I am going to be talking about this beautiful creature right here. This is the Resiners Resin curing machine. Some of you might have seen it online, other folks using it. You might have seen a review of it already, or you might never have heard of it. So I'm going to share with you my thoughts and what is going on with this machine, how it works, what I'm going to do with it. So stay tuned. Okay, before we get started actually testing this guy out, I just wanted to share a couple of things with you all quickly, give you a little backstory. So I had made this video that I'm going to make with you today about a week ago, and I did something that I don't know, I should have done something that I didn't do. And what I should have done is should have tested this out. And let me fill you in on what I mean by that. So this is my second machine. I had another one. The other machine, I opened it, got it out, made a whole video for you folks, tested it out a couple of times. First time I tested it, worked great, took it out. Spoiler, it didn't really, but I didn't know that. Did another piece, tested it out, didn't work so hot. Did another piece, tested it out, still didn't work so hot. Well, what I mean by something I should have done that I didn't do is before I took it out of the box and got rid of the box and did all of that fun stuff that you do when you have a new machine or some new toy to play with, I threw the box away before I even knew whether this worked or not. I did buy it through Amazon. I've had some issues with Amazon, but I did not have issues returning this. So I did return it, used their return policy, which worked like a charm. I had no problems with their return policy. I sent the other one back a couple of days ago. I got this in the mail yesterday. I did test this out last night. I did not cure resin in it because I'm leaving that to do with you guys. But what I found out didn't happen on the other one is the heating element that's inside that warms up the unit never warmed it up. The reason I said spoilers a little while ago is because I thought it cured the resin. It ran for the 2 hours. The 2 hours was done. It shut off just like it was supposed to. Everything seemed to be going great. I never opened it up to check out the resin until the next morning. The next morning I opened it up and of course the resin was set like a charm. And I thought, oh, this worked beautifully. Look at this. So anyway, this last time when I tested it out, I ran it through the machine, and after 2 hours, I was excited. I came out here to film the second episode, or the second part of the video, to add to the whole video to show you guys. And it was softer than soft. So I said, well, why could that be? And in their instruction manual, it said because you could be using off-brand resin, or I forget what the other issue was. Wasn't anything about the machine though, something that I might have done wrong, something about the mixing process or whatever. So I said, well, it was neither one of those things. I tried it again and I used the resin, name brand resin instead of the resin that I like to use from Michael's. Thought definitely got to fix the problem. It didn't, still soft. Everything cured beautifully. So it wasn't my mixing, it wasn't the ratio of the resin. Oh, that was the other issue. It was not if I wasn't using a 1-to-1 ratio resin. And I knew I was. Both of the resins that I tried were 1-to-1 ratios because this does have to be a 1-to-1, and I'll get into that in a minute. So anyway, I had used the appropriate kind of resin. I had put the timer on exactly like they instructed me to. I'd done everything correctly. Come to find out, when I turned it on again and tried to use it, it didn't heat up. And that was the underlying problem. So I apologize for that long-winded spiel, but there are things that you can check before you even try to use your machine to make sure that it's going to do what it's supposed to do, and that is to try to let it run after you get it, as I should have done the first time, and make sure that it does what it needs to do, and it didn't. So I returned it. I have a new one here to test out with you guys. Like I said, I already tested it. It does heat up, so I was very happy that the heating element worked. And we'll see how it goes for this one. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this machine and just explain to you a little bit about what it does and how it works. So this machine has two dials on the front of it. It kind of looks like a radio a little bit. They don't have to be pointed up. They don't have to be in any specific orientation. All you have to do the very first time you use it is plug it in and push this AI button. When you plug it in, some dotted lines will come up here. If you've already got it plugged in and you don't see anything on the screen, push this button to start it. You just push it in. Listen to this. Push it in to start it. It should read some numbers on the front and they'll blink. You push this and it'll start, and you'll hear the engine turn on and it'll start to heat up. This is an AI button. This is an automatic button. It automatically sets the temperature. It automatically sets the time. You don't need to do anything. This is a quote unquote a foolproof method for somebody that's not used to this machine, doesn't really know how long some resins take to cure. So I definitely went with the foolproof method and used the AI the first time I did it. So that's what we'll be doing this time. The other thing that you can do is that once it's turned on, you see the dotted lines here. There's a temperature setting over here where you can set the temperature to whatever degree you want it to be at. And over here is a timer, and you can set it to whatever time, and you'll see those digits come up here as you adjust the timer and the degrees. All right, those logistics out of the way, let me explain what kind of machine I actually got. So my machine is actually an expandable machine. So when it comes like this. So you see these levels are all really, really close together. And I believe it says that there's about an inch or so, a little bit less than an inch curing space. And there's 3 trays. So all of these come apart, I should say. So you have 3 trays that you can cure resin on. So you can cure as many pieces of resin on here as the trays will hold, as long as they're the depth of the tray. What you can do, instead of leaving them stacked as they are when they come, if you twist them, oh, hold on. Instead of leaving them stacked like they are when they come, if you twist them around from their original orientation, did I flip this upside down? I can't even remember. Oh my goodness. There, sorry. I had to figure it out. So they're like this originally. If you take one of the trays and just turn it all the way around so the back is now in the front and set it down, you can see now there's a difference in depth right here. That makes the trays thicker, and that's the reason I got this model. There is a price difference between the ones that don't turn and the ones that do turn. So if you're not looking to cure anything super thick and you fit the measurements, go for the cheaper one. I wanted something that was a little bit deeper so that I could cure things that were a little bit thicker, just in case. I don't really know what I'm going to cure that's a little bit thicker, but I wanted to make sure that I had the availability in case I needed it. And it wasn't a huge price difference. I think it was $20 difference, something like that, give or take, depending on where you buy it and when you buy it and what not manufacturer, but what seller on Amazon you use and so forth. You guys know how Amazon works, hopefully. And then, of course, there's a cover for it. And that's a beautiful thing because we don't want our resin getting dust particles in as we cure. And that's the primary reason for the cover, because I did learn that you can cure without a cover. You can also cure with only one tray in as opposed to all of them. And you can put a piece on here without the cover and let it go and it'll be fine. It does not need the cover to cure, and it also works as a warmer for your resin. So if you're working in a particularly cold climate, or winter's coming for some of us, the resin tends to get a little bit stiffer when it's cold outside. You could put it on here, the bottles, before you open them and mix them. Put them on here, let them warm up a little bit, then mix them, and you'll have a much easier time mixing it. You won't have as many air bubbles. In addition to that, what did I want to say? I just lost my train of thought. It'll come to me. But yeah, I think it's a really cool machine. I'm really excited about using it. Oh, that was the thing I wanted to tell you. It cures in 2 hours. And I don't think I mentioned that at all in this video so far. So the whole point of this is to cure the resin more quickly so that you can work with it faster. So if you're building layers of resin, if you're pouring something that's kind of deeper, or if you just want to fix things in place and you don't want to worry about working with UV resin, this is a perfect way to do it. And sometimes I just need instant gratification, and I want to be able to get my stuff out and look at it right away, make sure it worked, especially if I'm making a gift or something like that. That way I don't have to worry about it until the next day to see whether or not what I'm experimenting with actually worked. So all that being said, I'm going to put this off to the side. We're going to mix up something and we'll test the machine out, see how it goes. So I recently purchased this cool little crescent moon, and I used it already to test it out, test the mold out to see how it worked, and it works great. It's a really nice, really nice mold. So we're going to use this mold and we're going to make a crescent moon. And if you haven't seen it on TikTok lately or on Instagram or other social media outlets, these are actually called hair moons. And I had never even heard of them. I love crescent moons, just crescent moons as themselves. But these can be used in hairstyles to hold the hair in place. And if you haven't seen anything like that before, I urge you to go out and take a look at it because it's kind of neat. But I'm going to be using these just because I like crescent moons. So we're going to do this in a couple of stages. This side, even though it doesn't look like it is the front, because this is the concave side of the mold. So I want to see if I can set some things down in here to go along the inside of the crescent moon. And then we're going to let that set so that they don't rise or sink or do whatever. And then we're going to pour another level of maybe a different colored resin on the back side here, which is why I want to try this. So off camera, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some resin. Don't need an awful lot to fill this up. I think I'm only going to do like 40 milliliters. I probably won't even do that, maybe 30, because I'm only making part of it. So I'm going to do that mixing up off camera, and I'll come right back to you guys in just a second with the resin ready to go and ready to pour into the mold. Okay, so we're back. One thing I will mention as I'm working on this is the thing that they say to do is to put your piece right on the tray as you're doing all the resin work, because then you can pick the whole thing up and move it. I did check my resin machine where I've put it, and for the most part it's pretty level. I will say that these tend to slip a little bit because it is movable. There's no support in the middle. So I wouldn't put things like right in the very center. I would try to keep them more on the outside to keep everything level. So that's just something to keep in mind. I've mixed up my resin and it's degassing right now. So I'm just going to put my moon on here. And what I've decided to put inside of it is some little red agate pieces. So I'm just going to put them right in here. Oops. Oh my goodness. Not very good at pouring them out today, apparently. And another thing to keep in mind with this moon as you pour it is that the tips, because of the style that it is and because it's a 3D object, the tips are not as deep as the rest of the moon. The deepest part is in the middle. So I'm going to try to keep the stones away from the very tip because I probably won't be filling that up with resin during this first step. And since my resin is ready to go, just a few bubbles, but I can let the bubbles degas after I've poured it in here. I'm just going to pour my resin in. And also, just to let you know, I'm using what's it called? I'm trying to look at my resin while I'm pouring it so I'm not dripping it everywhere. The amazing clear cast resin that I pick up at Michael's. And it is a 2-part epoxy. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. I want this to be deep enough to cover the stones that I've got in here, but again, not so deep that I can't pour the next level, because like I said, I'm going to put some sort of a color behind it. I'm not sure exactly what yet, but I am going to put some sort of a color. Now, I did have another mold that I began pouring resin into, and I ran out of resin. It was this mold right here, and that little shiny bit you can see in the middle. That's existing resin that I poured out of a previous cup like this when I had too much mixed. So I'm going to continue to fill this one up so I don't waste it. And if you see little bits of blue stuff going in here, it's glitter that I had on my stick. I tried to get most of it off, but I didn't get it all off. And again, I'm not terribly worried about it, because most likely I'm going to add something to this anyway. Get out the last little bit of this resin. Okay, so that's poured. I'm going to let it sit, especially this one over here, let it degas, get the bubbles out of it. And this one over here, I think I'm going to put a little bit of glitter on. So pardon me for just a second while I step away here, figure out what I want to add. All right, so this is, hopefully you can see it okay. It's called glitter. I got this at Michael's as well. It's extra fine glitter. It's called Copper Penny. So I'm going to use this. It's got little sprinkle holes on it. I don't know if I've already got the paper taken off on the inside or not. I do. That's okay. And before I decide to pour it everywhere and make a mess, if I can find my little scoop, I'll use that. Yes. All right. So here's just a little scooper guy that I'm using. Move this over so I can see a little better. I've had too much coffee today. My hands are shaky. I would have mixed this already up into the resin if I knew I was going to have extra. I only made 20 milliliters of resin to fill the other mold, and that was too much, but you shouldn't technically mix less than 20 milliliters of 1-to-1 epoxy resin, because it won't mix up appropriately. It will, but it might not set right because it's such a small amount. So that's why I mixed up 20 milliliters of it, knowing that I probably wouldn't need it all. So I'm just going to mix this into my resin, knowing full well that as this cures, it's going to settle, which is okay. I know that's going to happen, so I'm not going to be surprised when I open it up and it's all on one side. So I'm just going to mix it in, give it a little bit more even distribution. That'll help mix out some of those bubbles as well. And I'm aware that, Using a wooden popsicle stick is going to make it even more prone to bubbles. But just for mixing in that little part of glitter, I don't think it's going to be a problem. And I think I am pretty much done. As I said, before I put these in, I'm going to let them sit and degas just a little bit. This one seems to be okay, but there are still a few bubbles in there that I'm hoping will escape the longer I let it sit here. So we're just going to leave it here a minute, and when I'm ready to put this on the machine, I'll bring you right back. Okay, we are ready to finish up this process. So I did mix up my rocks a little bit in my resin to disperse them a little bit more and to get out as many of the bubbles that might be trapped underneath the rocks. I see one right there. I think I got it. And this one has been setting, and I did spritz them with alcohol. The alcohol will help burst the bubbles that are on the surface. So now it's just a matter of picking up our tray. Let's take a look at my pretty little kitty. Say hi, Bobo. Isn't she beautiful? Her name is Zoe, but we call her Bobo. All right, put it over here. Sorry for the shaking and getting you super close. I'm using my other hand. So there it is on the tray, or on the machine. The tray is on the machine. I am going to put the cover on it to keep it away from the dust. Forgive me, I'm going to put you down for a second. Okay, and I wanted to plug it in. So I plugged it in. You see all the little dots going across the surface there. Now what I want to do is I want to hit this button right here that says AI. And you're going to hear it beep, and you're going to see the numbers come up. Hopefully you can hear that noise. And what those numbers mean is that it's heating up to 95 degrees, and it's going to run for 120 minutes. So we're going to let that go. In 120 minutes, we'll be back. Guys, we're back. This is the moment of truth. It just finished. It goes through a cooling cycle before it finishes. So you can see it's all shut off. It just finished. I haven't waited or anything. It's been 2 hours. It just finished the cooling cycle. Let's see. The top is hot. It's never been hot before. So that's a good sign. And there's my pieces. Oh, we feel solidness. I'm excited. Okay, these are definitely warm to the touch. So I'm going to bring them over here and put them on my table. Sorry if I'm making you guys dizzy. Now bear in mind that even though they may be solid, they are still only 2 hours cured. Got freaking resin and stones everywhere over here. And glitter. Even though they may be solid, they're still only 2 hours into the process, so they may be a little bendy, but these are not, like these are not bendy at all here. Or not bendy rather, not uncured. That's some solid resin right there. Before, obviously, it was very sticky. My fingers like stuck to it. And while it is a little tacky, it's not, and when I say tacky, I don't even mean like really tacky, like those are some solidly cured pieces. All right. I don't want to take these out of the molds because they're not completely finished, but the Resiners machine worked. That was 2 hours. And we have cured pieces. Here, I'm going to hook you up to my little tripod here. Hold on. Bear with me. Oops. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do that is I wanted to show you guys. So this is the one that we've only partially filled. So you can see the shiny, whoops, the shiny resin in there. Do you see that? That's solid. It is bendy because it hasn't been fully cured yet. Like, and when I say fully cured, don't get me wrong. Like, this is solid. I can pour other resin over it and be perfectly fine with this. Now, I don't want to take it all the way out because I still have a second step and another layer I want to put on here. But for all intents and purposes, I could wait until this completely cools, maybe another half an hour, probably not even that long, and I could pour more resin over the top of this, put it back in my curing machine, let it cure again, take them out, demold them, and I would have a solid resin piece. So the machine, I will give 2 thumbs up for it. Hi everyone, we're back. This is just a little bonus content to show you how these resin moons that I made have turned out. These are after I've put them through the new machine that we just talked about in this video. But I wanted to let you know that I'd actually completed them, and I thought everybody might want to see that. So let's demold them here and you can see what they look like. So this first one was with the mica powder on the back, and on the front, well, I added the mica powder, you didn't see that part of it, but I put the powder into the resin. It's white sparkly mica powder. And the front side was the red agate that we had originally done. So I thought I'd take this out of the mold so you guys can see what it looked like after it was all done. So there's the finished product. I'm really happy with that. I really like how those stones turned out with that sparkly background. That turned out better than I actually anticipated that it would. So there's the final product on that one. That's what the back looks like. Just have to clean it up, do a little filing and sanding to make it completely usable. But yeah, and this was the second level of this mica powder was through the curing machine, and it was done in 2 hours. So it worked beautifully both times. This one was the one that I had already previously sort of poured. So no. Well, yeah, it is. I'm sorry. It is. Yes. And it's got the copper flakes in the front of it that we put through the resin machine the first time. This time I put blue mica powder in it and filled it in the back. So we'll see what this looks like. This went through the machine for the second time as well. So we'll take this out and see what this pretty guy looks like. All right, here's the other side. Ooh, I like that one as well. That is really pretty. I think I could have done a little better with the pouring of the first layer just to make it a little bit more consistent, but it gives it kind of an organic feel, so I'm not hating on it. There's one little spot in the resin right here. I'm not really sure what that is. I could buff that out with a buffer though. But anyway, I figured you guys would really want to see what these looked like after they got all done going through the machine. So those are the completed pours. I think they turned out pretty good. All right, thank you so much for watching as always, and we'll be back with another video soon. Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye.